Hey, what's up, everyone? Jeff C here. I hope you're having a nice week and hopefully it won't scare you too much. But we're here today with my good friend Camille. Please stop the ride to discuss the singularity and how everything or so much of what's happening is actually involving this. Oh, there we go. So we missed the whole beginning part there. There's a bit of a delay. So what I'll do is I'll just say hello, everyone. Thank you all for tuning into the show today. We got a big topic here. I'm here with my good friend Camille, whose channel is Please Stop the Ride. I posted her channel link in the description. You definitely want to go and sub her. And we're going to talk about the singularity and how it's connected to so much of what's going on right now. And if you don't know what the singularity is, it hasn't happened yet as far as we know. And we're talking about a technological sort of singularity. And this is a point where artificial intelligence just becomes, a runaway train sort of thing, where the ability for a sort of artificial intelligence to enhance itself unlimited in an unlimited form just explodes. And then we're in a completely different realm where we have massive artificial intelligence that is vastly beyond the capabilities of humankind. And you'll either have, this is why you see a lot with Elon Musk and Ray Kurzweil and many of these characters, that this push that we all have to become transhuman and that we all have to merge with machines. Because if we don't merge with machines, when this singularity happens, the machines, which will be infinitely more powerful, will look at us like we're bacteria or something like that. And so this is why a lot of them are pushing this. So all around us, we have artificial intelligence programs that are functioning, especially in my belief when it comes to the massive coronavirus scamdemic, as I call it, that they are using artificial intelligence to react and navigate and foresee and plot out everything that they're trying to accomplish. So a lot of what's happening with the coronavirus is actually directly tied to this singularity, the hive mind programming of the masses that you see. And you see that manifest everywhere, especially with the mask, people, putting masks on their faces and complying and then being programmed into this, you're doing it to save humanity. And it really is a form of hive mind programming. And these are precursors to what they ultimately want to do. And it's pretty scary when you think about it, because you see, you've seen movies like The Matrix where it shows the potential sort of flip side to how things could go very wrong in the hands of, say, artificial intelligence programs, a Deus Ex Machina, sort of taking control of the world. And these people that are behind this push for the singularity are the same people that are pushed behind the whole transhumanist agenda. And we're going to talk about a number of them today. But they are convinced that this will happen. And not only will it happen, but it will happen soon. And when it happens, everything will change forevermore. And it will change so rapidly that you won't, I mean, I don't even know, I'm trying to envision it myself if it comes to pass, say in the next 10, 15 years, that we have this sort of singularity event that happens. Everything would change instantly, and it would change so rapidly that it'd be hard to comprehend what would be happening around us if this manifests the way that they want it to manifest. And so there's a lot of very important things to discuss about this. And you see, like, a lot of what we look around and we see, and we don't really understand why they're doing so many different things that seem to be very trivial in some ways. Like, we could give the example of the LGBT because of XYZ and how they're pushing the rights for all these people and all this. This actually, a lot of it could be really tied to this transhumanist sort of agenda that they have in mind. So without any further ado, I'm going to get into it right now and bring in my good friend Camille. How are you doing, Camille?
I'm doing well. Hi, Jeff. Hello, everyone. Hello.
So, just talking on the surface about the singularity, what would you say, like if somebody were to ask you about it, and how would you explain it to folks?
I think I'd say that it's like they want to give over all power of everything to the machine that will write its own programs. And already people have a hard time figuring out where the answers come from, where everything comes from, especially if you don't have a tech sort of background. But yeah, to just entrust everything, which they want to rewrite all of life. So that's really scary. It's like, what if the machine doesn't like what we are? What if it wants to change everything over? And if the machine is behind the code for the food and the code for what everyone is learning and everything, it's just we've already had these people that are doing this societal change and shifting us, and now it's their little creation that's way more powerful and way smarter than them, sort of thing.
And this has been a long-term objective of many of these characters that are behind some of the most powerful corporations in the world, including, of course, Ray Kurzweil, who what was his position? He's the chief engineer, I think,
He's
behind Google.
a director of engineering at Google, they said.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, so like many of these characters are embedded in these massive tech corporations, so that the tech corporations are moving us towards this.
Oh yeah, and Kurzweil, he says that, or the big thing with him is that he made all these predictions, and look at all these predictions that came true. It's like, well, they told you what they were going to do, sort of thing, and then they just reverse engineer it or whatever. From there, we want to have the little Star Trek toys and all the stuff, and
We saw with
build it.
Microsoft too recently, which got them into. I mean, again, I mean, how much of it is just all according to plan? But they had the big event, and I think they called it the One or something like that. It was with Marina Abramovich, the spirit cooking sort of
Oh
demonic.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and that was like a virtual sort of reality, and it had the circular sort of theme that you see with Ted and everything, right? It was like a people standing around this big circle, and they could interact with this sort of holographic sort of Marina Abramovich
Which everyone wants
pushing.
to do.
Yeah,
Sounds great.
they can do their spirit cooking, but that like these are the things that I think like a lot of us, like I think it's easy for us not to see the bigger picture about where things are going. Like it's easy to get caught in the here and now and how everything, like, because yeah, it is extremely important, especially with the coronavirus, how many of our rights are being pushed aside, and again, like, you know, it would be a mistake to think that these things are being pushed aside temporarily. They're getting us accustomed to this new world that they're bringing in,
Oh
and
yeah.
I think this whole scamdemic is a huge part of it. And I've speculated since it started that they've been using highly advanced artificial intelligence to coordinate and carry out this massive operation and constantly respond. Because again, with the singularity, folks, people are familiar with Moore's law, um, which, you know, the power of computation, you know, basically doubles every couple years or so. I don't know. I'm not, you know, kind of paraphrasing it.
Everything gets smaller and cheaper too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And with this, it would be, you know, Moore's law on steroids to the nth degree times a million type of thing, or a trillion, or a quadrillion, or whatever. Because like that's the whole thing with this. Because what they would develop is this super advanced artificial intelligence that could constantly improve itself at every second of every day or every millisecond, or you know what I
Well,
mean?
and
Like,
we're constantly adding to that, all of our participation with all the devices around us, even like not just these kinds of conversations, but like every little bit of tech that touches us, we're adding to the AI, and then it can just meld everything together and go so much faster than anybody could to come up with all new ways of doing things. Yeah.
and we won't be able to recognize ourselves in the near future, or you know,
There's
the
some
people that go
crazy
through the,
stuff.
yeah, with the people that go through this transformation, because this has been depicted, and I actually covered it in a game, which was called Deus Ex: Mankind Divided, which was probably easily the most disturbing game I've ever played. I only played it for 2 or 3 hours, but it was a title by Ubisoft here from Montreal, Eidos and Ubisoft. I remember, in which, of course, 100 or 150 years in the future, mankind has been completely divided by those who have embraced transhumanism and those who are traditional sort of human beings. And they went to war and destroyed the entire planet and had,
Oh,
you know, and the planet, yeah, you're taking part in the future where your character is transhumanist, and you, as you progress through the story, you're constantly upgrading your abilities, you know, whether it's your computation skills or your, you know, you're getting better arms or better, you know, eyeballs that are more enhanced and stuff like that. Very disturbing stuff, but they have been selling this type of transhumanism to the youth through gaming and through movies and through some of the blockbuster movies. One of them that I covered where I discussed it, and I know you haven't seen it yet, is called Transhumanists. I think, though, it's, what is it? The one with Johnny Depp that I used for the
he said,
Transcendence.
yeah, that one, yeah.
Transcendence, that's it. Transcendence. So in the movie Transcendence, what they're doing there is they're trying to develop artificial intelligence programs that you can download your consciousness into,
Yeah.
right? So what they call MUs or emus, emulations, that what you would be able to do in the near future and what might already be happening. In fact, they might have a lot of these things already operating, is that you would have people that would download their consciousness and their memories and everything into a computer program. And that computer program would be a living entity within the cyber world, but would have the same rights, say, as a human being. And this is why I mentioned the LGBT stuff before, with the a lot of these bills that are being passed to give extra rights to people who identify as different things.
And the
And
rights for Sophia, the
yeah,
robot. Yeah.
yeah, and we were talking about that just before going live here. How Saudi Arabia, back, I think it was in 2016, they had the robot Sophia that they gave human status to. So that robot, talking toaster or whatever you want to call it, has the same right, has more rights, ironically, than the women of that country, which is so disturbing. But it just goes to show you that there's a long-term plan
Oh,
and
yeah.
vision of what they want to do.
And we don't know how far along they are. Yeah. Like I was also saying to you before the show, that book that Richard A. Clarke, who's some defense military guy, that he wrote a book called Breakpoint. It was featured in, or it was mentioned in the one article that I had used in my latest video. And he's saying in there, like, this, it's from 2007, and he's saying it as a futuristic sort of thing from 2009, I believe. And as if so much of the technology is already, a lot of it through the military and whatnot, like the bionic eyes, and that they weren't just replacing soldiers' limbs from getting them blown off, but just to enhance them and putting
$6 million man.
Yeah. And they put them in the super suits and bad things happen. It's an interesting book. People should read it. It goes all into Kurzweil and Singularity, and they kind of build them up.
There was a film, I'm trying to remember the name of it, which I actually have recommended a few times. Upgrade is the name. I don't think you've seen that one, have you?
No.
So Upgrade is a film in which it takes place in the not so distant future, in which a man is disabled. He's paralyzed from the neck down in a attack that happens. So it's a terrorist attack or whatever you want to say, right? And so, you know, it's a young, fit man who is paralyzed, and his life becomes absolutely miserable. He's stuck in a bed. So a developer offers him the ability to get this chip, this brain chip, that would control his limbic system, right? And he accepts it because, you know, his life is miserable. And again, this kind of ties into Elon Musk as well, because this is what Elon Musk and co are developing, right? They want to start with these types of chips that they insert into your right where your spine, your brain sort of connect to each other, right? So it can control things like your limbic system. But yeah, in the film, this guy gets that, but basically the computer starts to take over, and before long, I'm going to kind of spoil it here, but I feel like I almost have to, in the sense that the character, which is very disturbing because this could be what they have in plan for most of humanity, is that they'll entice you to get transhumanists, these brain chips insert it into your body, selling it to you that it's going to make your life better and it's going to make you smarter and you're going to be connected and you're going to just have a tremendous edge in society, and you'll be able to live longer and potentially live unlimited length and stuff like that. But ultimately what it could be is that you'll just be quickly switched into a hive consciousness where you'll no longer have any control, and you won't even know it because of course you'll be more computer than you will be human, or the computer will control you and control your mind, sort of thing.
And they've studied the brain so much, no doubt they'd know what to hit to dull you down so that you wouldn't be a problem anymore. Like Obama had that brain initiative back in 2013, and I know they were working on it before that, obviously, but yeah, they've done a lot of study to know what to trigger to turn you into a little drone. Definitely.
I think in many ways too, like when I look at Twitter and Instagram and like the TikTok, you could say, and all the major sort of social media platforms, I think it does take a rocket scientist to see that hive mind is full in force. It's not in the sense that you're directly connected by circuitry to this artificial intelligence, but in many ways it's warming you up, or it's getting you in, like setting you up for what's next, sort of thing. That people embrace this, everybody does the same thing, or everybody has the same reaction, everybody is partaking in the same sort of things at the same time, right? This is basically what social media is by and large. It's really, you'd think ideally social media would function as a way of people sort of embracing individuality and using that power to display their intellectual prowess or their cognitive capabilities and stuff like that. But it's like really the opposite. And almost all, like I'm not saying with people like ourselves and people that are listening to the show, but I'm saying for most people that partake in social media, it's a largely already a hive mind state.
Well, yeah, like it's a display of where the mindsets are at right now. Jules had said once on a show that they gave us all of these tools so that the troublemakers could identify themselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So those are maybe the people, because of course it's not just these companies that are doing all this, but all the governments are totally backing and behind all of these initiatives, like these companies like Singularity University, these little tampering crazy people. They were given space at NASA, to start and give them funding to begin all of this stuff. That it's definitely,
it would be like, when you think about it, control is obviously what's happening like right around us right now, and a lot of people, like if we just look at the scamdemic, right? And whatever you believe or whatever anybody believes that they're listening to this, right? It's okay if you think it's all real, if you think that people are wearing masks because you want to save lives and you buy into all of that, that's fine if you do, right? I'm not telling you what you should believe, or I'll say what I believe, right? And then I'll illustrate my points. But really, when we look at it, what's happening right now is an exercise of control. Yeah. And it's like most of what's happening, folks, is highly unconstitutional. And I'm talking, whether you're in the United States or you're Canada or you're UK or whatever, all these countries have constitutions, many of them based on the American Constitution. So most of what's happening is exercise of control, where they're quickly implementing this methodology of, or this, this control system in which they're getting people to do what they want them to do, regardless of how asinine or, oppressive it seems to folks that, that are slightly aware of what's going on, sort of thing. They're doing this because they can. And, it's very disturbing, because if we think of where this could all go in the near future, like right now, it's more or less voluntary, like like the lockdown itself, the mandatory mask, and all these things that are happening it's really unconstitutional, and it shouldn't by any means be able to hold up in court or something like that if you were to challenge it, because it violates your constitutional rights. Yet it's largely voluntary, is what I'm saying. And even Governor Cuomo admitted this, I don't know, a month, 2 months ago, which I showed on a video, in which he came out and said, "Oh, it's all voluntary. We should, we can't make people not go to work. We just, it's people have done what we've told them, and it's unconstitutional, but yet people are doing it," sort of thing. So this is very disturbing, folks, because they are obviously whetting their appetite, seeing how they've been able to be very successful in getting most of the world to do what they want them to do. And this is prior to us all being chipped. And of course, what is one of the major objectives of this this whole virus is to have a system of monitoring every single human being on the planet. Now, just the other day, I'm very disturbed. Like, I'm really disturbed. I've been to a number of stores where they're trying to take down people's information that walk into the store. And we know with the contact tracing, as we've shown, I showed this yesterday or 2 days ago on the live show I did on Monday, that people are being fined $2,000 a day in New York State, for instance, for not complying with not complying with the contact tracing.
Yeah.
So contact tracing, of course, involves them being able to track people wherever they go, and then using that ability to track people to locate everybody that they come in contact with.
Either through them just telling and spilling the beans about who they saw, or having their social media checked to see for pictures or anything.
Yes,
like that.
yes.
Or through their technologies.
Yes, and as we've seen with the rhetoric that comes out of some of these puppets that they have in power, and one of them that springs to mind is Mayor Garcetti of Los Angeles, who said, "Snitches, it used to be an old saying, snitches get stitches, but now snitches get rewards." So they have largely created this this self-policing sort of hive mind, abominable sort of new world order that a year ago would have been shocking to any human being, really, that you'd have to wear a mask and stand in a circle and get sprayed and all your information be traced wherever you go, and yet here we are.
Well, and it's just like Cass Sunstein said, that when we're afraid, they know we don't function well to be able to think about what's going on.
Yes, and fear is how they control us. Like fear. Well, when it comes, it's not. I mean, it really is throughout history, tyranny and dictatorships and all that. Right? It's fear that keeps people in line. So fear, and we've always have fear. Like, folks have to realize this. Like, the way that these and I was going to say governments, but it's really a misnomer, because it's much bigger than a government. Like, the government is controlled by this new world order sort of thing. So this whole agendas, these massive sort of secret societies that run this world, they are using fear to get everyone to comply with what they want to carry out, and it is working. It really is, and it shows you the danger of how they're programming. So the programming that eventually will be in your body, and with the brain chips and the quantum dot tattoos and all the things that they have planned for us. Right now, it's largely just coming from your your computer, your television and stuff like that, your radio, your newspapers, right? That people are still in that sort of situation. So it's a very scary situation. And I do believe like that's why so much of what is happening right now, I do believe artificial intelligence has a huge role to play in what's happening right now and how they're reacting to everything that's, standing up or resisting what they're doing, sort of thing. So I think we're seeing the precursors to this singularity right at this moment, and it's pretty disturbing.
Oh yeah, because once it takes off, they don't say exponentials for nothing. That it's just everything. They have it all built and ready behind the scenes. They've been tapping the youth. It's crazy how they have the young people are pushing so much of this forward. Which at my co-op and stuff, before masks were mandatory, I would see the young people wearing masks, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" I didn't understand why they would do that, but I guess there's this huge push that they're going to be the ones that fix everything that all the old people have screwed up, right? And then they'll normalize it, and then the very young people, they'll be all primed and ready through the education system.
They'll be chipped.
Yeah, they'll be chipped. Well, and it's funny. So the contact tracing and the tech, before they're saying that Apple and Google put that software update or whatever on everybody's phones,
Yeah.
so that they could upload an app or download an app and have that if you wanted to. I have a couple different little clip videos that I need to take the time and do. One of them is a guy talking about how they've made it easier for local authorities and whatnot, that it doesn't have to have anything uploaded, that it's just, or that you don't have to put an app on your phone, that it's just going to do it automatically, which we kind of figured that was going to happen. And then another one with that, and this goes back to Peter Diamandis. We're looking at one of his books right here, The Future is Faster Than You Think. He just was having a talk the other day with these people. The guy that is like the godfather of 3D printing has teamed up with this company that they're doing 3D printed clothes and whatnot. And wouldn't you have it, when the whole thing started, they switched over to masks, of course. So 3D printed knit sort of masks. Who knows what they're made out of? I think I heard them say something about plastic bottles, but the third generation mask is being tested at Johns Hopkins right now, and that it has low power Bluetooth built into it, because they can do all that so small, so that the contact tracing is built into your mask, because your mask is going to be your new
identification
purse, or your new tie. It's going to be, they say masks are here to stay, but it's like your fashion feature. And that there's also temperature sensors built in to monitor your temperature and all this stuff. It's like, what else is going to be in there? Because they'll expect that you're wearing your mask everywhere that you go, because you got to do that so many places. But
yeah, the tech solutions that are coming forth for this whole scamdemic are very scary, and they're already being implemented. We showed schools where they're getting people to wear bracelets and stuff.
Well, and it's all of these schools that I've seen back to school videos in my area where they've got they all have matching masks on that have the school's logo on there. So what if those end up having this? No doubt won't just be this one company that's putting these sensors in their masks. This is just they're talking about it there. But what if they stick those on all the children too, and they've got Bluetooth pumping off their faces all day long?
Yeah, and the kids too. When you've eliminated the whole parenting thing, which they by and large have done, especially through the feminist sort of programming of women, where now women by and large, mothers, don't parent, they go to work, right? So the the game that they played over the past 50 years or so, where they've managed to get everyone to work full-time sort of thing, and nobody raised the kids. Well, the kids now are being brought up by the institutions, and that's
all that STEM training, the science and technology, they're all primed through
so they've eliminated that sort of passing on of knowledge and understanding of the world, and they've largely dumbed down most of the population, and the kids are brainwashed massively into loving all of what's happening and embracing all this, right? And then what you mentioned before, which is the this ideology that they program them with, that they're going to be the saviors of the world.
Oh yeah.
Not even humanity, because in fact many of them are being programmed into wanting to kill humanity, or wanting, like, being birth strikers and depopulation sort of proponents, right? That in many ways it's just about saving the planet that they have programmed people into. And it's very, the way that it works too, like, I can say this about YouTube because I'm a sucker for nature videos, but I would say that the artificial intelligence is already massively employed in the algorithms of these social media platforms. And I think that, and again, too, it just thinking about it, because I'm sure you remember this, Camille, which was that when Susan Wojcicki announced months back, when the whole Corona thing was taken off, that, oh, okay, the YouTube employees now will be mostly operating from their home, and they won't have the ability to do all the type of work that they do, namely, which was moderating, right? And so that artificial intelligence programs are going to fill the void. And so that they have employed that type of tech. And of course, Ray Kurzweil being the chief, the director of engineering or whatever for Google itself, shows you. And Google has so many crazy things that they've been involved in. All these tech corporations are doing massive things behind the scenes that most people are not aware of. They're very secretive, first and foremost, right? It's the corporate sort of secrecy is at an all-time high.
But at the same time, I feel like they're all working together for common goals. Yeah. You have to definitely want to find, and you have to know what you're looking for to find where they're talking about any of this stuff, for sure, if you're going to find any of it.
Yeah, so go ahead.
Susan's mom is involved with the Singularity University and the Exponential Africa, the tapping of the youth there. They did
Wakanda.
Yeah. Oh, I just saw that come up in the video. But yeah, Esther, she was on. They did an education talk for the Exponential Africa, because that's where the youth is. They've got the most young people, and they're gonna they're use them for all they're worth.
The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, are they're so focused on Africa, right? And so many of these other corporations, because that's one of the things, India and Africa, because of their human population, the youth, and again, it's they're like both Africa and India, and this is a generalization, but it is more or less true if you just take the numbers sort of into consideration. Our world, say North America, Europe, people aren't having babies, not anywhere near that they used to, right? Mm-hmm. But both India and Africa that's where the huge youth populations right now, as opposed to much larger, say, middle-age populations in Europe and in North America. So that's why, one of the reasons why so much of their focus is in those areas. And I think, they've been, like, I haven't seen the Black Panther movie.
Neither have I.
But I would imagine from like little clips that I've seen that it's a highly advanced, like Wakanda, as I saying, right? Because the Wakanda theme is popping up. Even Kanye West is using it, and so many others, right?
Well, the Wakanda they were building, that was a smart city, right? Yeah.
Yes, that's so like
in the real world, not just
they look at the Africa and they say, wow, we can go in there and we could start, like you go into some of these areas that are like mud huts and stuff, right?
Yeah, they get to leapfrog. They don't have all the wires. They don't have all the old everybody.
Yeah, they can build it from scratch, right? Yeah. And they can start there, because the smart cities, of course, and they have been trying to implement these here. New York City is really the place in the West to keep a very close eye on. Well, I mean, all over, but New York City, because there's so much construction there, and most of the buildings that are being built there are being built with all the surveillance inside them, sort of thing.
For the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so like when we say surveillance, just think of the whole Corona thing. So, all the corporations that are out there right now, all the businesses, even restaurants and bars and cafes and stuff, they're all forced to implement these protocols to keep their customers safer, right? So the social distancing, the plexiglass, the contact tracing, right? And we showed on Monday how there was a bar, and CNN was all over it, of course, a pub in England, which put
I saw that.
yeah,
Creep.
electric fence.
Yeah. Oh,
Like and so what's happening, folks, and I would imagine this has a lot to do with the artificial intelligence. The artificial intelligence says, well, this is, if we're going to accomplish all of this, we need to change humanity.
well, yeah,
And
and they need all the data that they can get. Like I heard Ray Kurzweil talk about how that the singularity sort of thing is when they get all the minds, all the minds hooked up, which they've already given all these people in the developing, the up and coming nations. They've already given them all phones. They
yeah,
have the tech in their hands. So yeah,
and that's
YouTubing is huge in Africa. Being a YouTuber.
yeah, and now, okay, so with the BLM and everything that's happening, now they're going to promote all the black people. And this is a large thing that's happening. So the youth over in Africa, if you start up a YouTube channel, for instance, and they like what you're doing or something, they're going to come and try to get you in the fold really quickly, sort of thing, and offer you all kinds of incentives. And, for these kids, it's going to be like a no brainer. Wow, I can make a lot of money. I can be super successful.
Yeah.
I can look at, and you could see almost the closing of the old guard of the popular YouTubers with the Shane Dawson, for instance. Recently, many of his past sort of theatrics that he is involved in, which are pretty wretched in many ways, like where it's like pedophilia and stuff like that, or just really debaucherous sort of behavior, or even racist behavior that the character was involved with. And now you see how they're going to replace a lot of these characters, and they're going to bring up this new generation of tech worshippers. And that Marcus Brownlee guy is another example, because he's like the main tech guy. I'd say he's one of the top tech guys on YouTube. I'm not sure if you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, I saw him on This Week in Google once. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like kind of like the new face of the whole, wow, look at all the tech, and he reviews all the smartphones and everything, and he's a major sort of insider, or a big time YouTube sort of employee, if you will. But yeah, you can see how the youth are going to be lured into this, and it's all positive. Like if you watch that Marcus Brownlee guy, it's all positive. Like there's no negatives about anything that they're up to. Whatever the surveillance, or the 5G, or the super phones, or whatever. And what will it be? In the near future, well, it'll be the brain chips and whatnot, right? And so all of this is moving. They're pushing everybody towards this, singularity, towards this sort of embracing of transhumanism, this embracing of, and it, again, like so much of, because like the food, right? I know you want to talk about that as well,
Yeah.
that all the food is being transformed right before our eyes. And like you were saying before, when we were talking privately, they're using, again, was it Colin Kaepernick now?
Yeah, with impossible foods.
Right. So the changing of our diet, and my gosh, you ever seen what Ray Kurzweil takes on a daily basis?
Loads and loads of pills, they say. Lots of supplements.
Like, yeah, like
right?
250 pills a day,
And he doesn't look very good.
eight glasses of alkaline water and stuff like that. Like the guy and they all are the people that are behind the transhumanist, that they want to live forever. So Ray Kurzweil wants to live forever. He does not want. He wants to be a god.
Well, and he
Like,
wants to bring his dad back from the dead.
yeah, he does.
Yeah,
He does, eh?
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're hell bent on this, folks. Like they're obsessed with this.
Manipulating biology is so huge, and biology for computing and everything like this. the techno meld there. It's
So yeah,
scary.
and we think about like, because we talk about moving forward by stepping back, right? Like
Yeah.
that's a lot of our discussions boil down to that, or at least as solutions that, like the tech is actually really hurting us and is keeping us from being human and is dehumanizing us. And look at the foods, which are even worse. I mean, well, they're all part of the same beast basically, but the foods rapidly changing. And we see, like, for instance, just little things like, I mean, it's crazy. Like, you cover a lot of this stuff, but there's very few people that do this type of work on social media, which is really a huge hole that we have. Thank God we have people like you that cover this. But, like, for instance, one of the things I showed recently was how the FDA changed the ingredients prerequisites, or the rules basically for vending machines.
Yeah, and I have FDA just came out again yesterday or the day before. They're talking about how in March they were just days away from introducing this new era of smarter food safety blueprint, and now it's more needed than ever with the
Yes.
coronavirus.
Oh, isn't
It's
that
amazing because there's foods are being reformulated. There's new food and new food production methods, and just they say that they need to bend the curve of foodborne illness. Sounds very
Yeah,
coronavirus.
yeah. It's always solutions.
Yeah, they
Like,
talk stem cells in there,
yeah.
everything.
So the food, like, and what I was showing with that was that basically, and this is just one thing, but it is important. It's like dealing with, say, vending machines, that the base ingredients, because there's a shortage because of the
Yeah,
whole disruption, that these corporations can now supplement these base ingredients that they put, and they don't have to tell you.
yeah,
So whatever they might be using, typically, which might be a good percentage of what you're consuming if you're eating these things, might be not at all what you think it is. It could be some very experimental lab concocted sort of replacement that might have untold sort of effects on your body chemistry. And we see that with the massive cancer rates that are spiking. And this is something that's really scary, what's going on.
but just like now, they don't expect people to look beyond the labels. Like I need to cover more in the food land, like these clean labels. It's stuff
Yeah.
like that. It is so not a thing that you want to do. Those are pure things. Those are just brewed up that little itty bit thing. But they are talking about how this is going to be just so much safer using the AI and the machine learning because they've got the tech enabled traceability, and that's in minutes they'll be able to tell where that E. coli ridden lettuce went, whatever farm it
Yeah.
grew in, but and then the predictive analytics and everything.
They were showing that years ago with the blockchain, where
Yeah,
IBM was showing off, like
exactly.
saying we'd be able to trace where a tomato came from,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And it's like, whoa, what? That's bizarre. And
Yeah.
again, now you see why, folks, right? The problem, reaction, solution, the Hegelian dialectic being played out, where it's like, well, we got to keep you safer.
Yep. It's
This
all
is,
about safety.
yeah, safety. And so through the guise of this safety, through this specter of this invisible sort of scamdemic that they're using to destroy our world, our old world, they're bringing in all these solutions, and all the solutions do involve radical changes to our day-to-day lives and our foods and everything, like everything. So everything that is out there now is becoming a part of the surveillance grid, amongst other things, right? Like now that you can track any item, you can track like food or clothing or anything like that. All these things are being embedded with this type of tracing technology.
Because they're working on the molecular level with this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not just safety too, it's the sustainability. But of course,
Yeah.
that boils down to safety because they say that we have to protect us from changing climates and whatnot. But have you seen, how palm oil is like the big bad oil, destroys the orangutans,
Does it?
habitats?
Does
Yeah,
it?
it's the
Yeah.
big bad one. But that's the one that company Caverity that they specifically talked about palm oil for brewing it up with CO2 and fermenters. Well, now did you know that coconut oil might even be worse than palm oil.
Oh,
So,
great.
as they've got the sustainable palm coming, and yeah, it's it's just crazy.
And they're not only changing, say, for instance, our foods and humanity, but they're also changing the animals around us and the plants, of course, right? And one of the examples of that too is the Bill Gates mosquitoes, the genetically modified, which they just released in Florida.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which is just insane, folks. And it's all ostensibly to stop the spread of dangerous sort of, diseases like malaria. Like we have a problem with that in Florida. But these genetically modified mosquitoes now have been released. And this is just the start. Of course, all your genetically modified foods, most of what you consume these days is probably genetically modified in some way or another.
Or it comes from a genetically modified organism that creates a non-GMO food product.
Yeah, that's right.
That's non-GMO. Yeah. And these things will no doubt be able to report on you after, like, when smarter bathroom facilities come online and all that.
Oh, yeah.
They'll be telling on you because there's like, they'll trigger if they sense this thing in you and whatnot.
One thing that I remember covering not too long ago, and it was in Toronto, how they were developing these portals that you would walk through, say, like just to go to the grocery or something like that. And they would have artificial intelligence, right? They would use artificial intelligence, and they would be able to detect everything about you, like your age, your health, your heartbeat, your body temperature, whether or not you consume cannabis or alcohol or what you had for breakfast, or, like, no joke, like they're showing off these portals that you would walk through to keep you safer. And then you would be inside the grocer, inside the pharmacy or whatever it was, hardware store, and you would have AI monitoring everyone's distancing to make sure that everyone keeps a full 6 feet away from each other. And so these are the solutions, and these are extremely expensive things to install, folks. So
they've been working on them for a long time now.
Yeah.
Bringing the price down. Do you remember they had a handheld scanner like that you could scan your produce at the grocery store to tell, like, make sure there's no glyphosate or anything in there? Jules covered a ton of this stuff before the first cup. Is the playlist, people? It might still be linked on my channel, I'm not sure, but that DARPA tech, yeah, they've been analyzing you, sampling you to know. They've been doing it for such
So I mean, that's where we're heading, folks, is zero privacy. Everything about you, like, you think you, but they know you a lot better, especially if they have your DNA.
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother kettle of fish too, with the whole collection of DNA, which probably has a huge amount to do with depopulation and who gets to breed and who doesn't in the future, right? Or in terms of however they're going to carry that out, which of course is going to be artificial wombs and whatnot, right? Yeah. Moving forward, and a lot of cloning, and it's just so scary. It's almost like couldn't that have grown up 100 years ago or something? Then you have to go through the world wars and all that crap. But like, it is a scary sort of, we're on that precipice. I think we haven't crossed into the full singularity, or maybe we have and they haven't let us know. But I mean, I think it would change so rapidly that you would be, like, you don't, like, how would you, like if we were to say this, like, I don't expect you to know the answer, but like, when would we know for sure that this singularity has happened? Like, what do you think would be the telltale signs?
Well, I definitely think that the 5G would have to be up and running. They have a lot of satellites that have to go up to help with getting all that signal everywhere. And
do you think maybe they're just setting the table for it all, and then they're going to flick the switch?
That's really what I think. Yeah, that it's slow little
Skynet.
Yeah, exactly. But meanwhile, they've had all of these, like, biology redesigning competitions, like that iGEM people. They've been building all of the infrastructure for it and the minds for it, so that when the tech is ready. Sorry, that was a really loud motorcycle.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
but yeah, so that it's all ready to go when the tech is ready and put up there. But yeah, there's infrastructure first, which I was going to say something else, but I will say on the infrastructure thing that I was watching another video I'd like to do eventually here, but I was watching on the World Government Summit and then on the National Governors Association, all the talk about the how they're going to get the broadband and the infrastructure rebuild is not just bridges and roads and buildings, but it's the internet too, and that it's all going to be the public-private partnerships, which I know is in Agenda 21 is putting on the public-private partnerships, which they've also got that payment protection or whatever. That's a PPP. There's all these different things.
Yeah.
PPP, but that they're going to make sure that the wealthy, the corporations and everything, they're going to make sure that we have the infrastructure there in place to run all of this stuff.
And the AI right now could currently be telling them, well, this is what we need to do, right? We need to have this whole grid fully laid out.
Oh yeah.
For it to fully function. Because like go ahead. Sorry.
Not so like if this gets hit, this whole area goes out. Like one thing I know I've heard for the satellite constellations is one thing with there being so many of them that if something happened to one of them, they could use the other ones to kind of like to cover for that one being missing, which that's again this book I was talking about earlier, Breakpoint. One of the ways that they were attacked by the Neo-Luddites was that they sent satellites off to way far away. They reprogrammed where they go, but if they have a lot to cover it, then that's not such an issue, which again with all of the antennas that are being put up all over the place on the ground, that it's partly to push the signal, but also partly to cover. So
they want to make it so that we there's no escape, basically. Yeah. I think it's pretty scary. You see those Elon Musk satellites, right? That they're one of the creepiest things I've ever seen. It's like, oh my god, that's up in our. Oh my god,
there's so many of those. Like they've got SpaceX talks about a lot of the satellites in their constellation, but there are so many companies. And there's I watch sometimes the International Astronautical Federation, and they talk on there about how private industry can put up these constellations on their own because they're so cheap, like the way they do it now. There's just loads of them. I would be, I mean, if we can see them at night, it's like, what's that going to do? I mean, beyond the whole takeover of everything, I'm like, but I like the stars. So yeah.
It is scary, and that's it. I mean, it's a new world that they're bringing in.
How they have
by hook or by crook,
the young people with, like I was talking before, the biodesign stuff. I don't know if you could show a video.
Yep.
I know that has to mess with everything, but there's the iGEM, like I already was talking about, where they turn it into, this is a thing that Peter Diamandis talks about a lot, is I want to say the first flight over the Atlantic, maybe. That it was a challenge put out, and then all these different companies and private individuals, they spent so much money to create the possibility when there was just this little prize. And so Peter Diamandis does his X Prize, where he's about to do one for masks. Oh, I wish I had it ready, because he's doing a survey. He wanted people could go.
That's and diamond symbolism, of course, has above so below.
Yeah.
I don't know the name and all that, but that is one of their big symbols, of course, right? The two pyramids sort of thing. So, but yeah, that's it. Diamandis, I'm trying to picture him.
He's a tiny little guy.
Yeah. Well, did you want to talk anything about the book that we have up on the screen, or should we start sharing some of what you wanted to show?
I'll send you something, but the book, he's saying in all these interviews that he should have called it something like "The Future is much faster than you think," because now everything's
much faster. Yeah. Well, they
plowing forward, because isn't it so helpful?
They could fit them
all this stuff ready.
They could put it in here. They left the space. How about way faster? Yeah, it's all happening so quickly, folks. And again, a huge, like, you have to think, folks, like the new normal, the new reality, everything that they're saying, this is all part of the plot, what we're witnessing. Like, we are witnessing this new world order right now, taking root in earnest, like as opposed to say 9/11, where it was setting the tables for amalgamating a lot of the surveillance apparatuses and setting the table for what they wanted to do. But right now, with this coronavirus, it's like, wow. I mean, like everything is now being monitored. Everything's being watched. We've entered into a world where privacy is completely wiped out, and
Well, and
everything that you
it's just
do.
like that Jane Metcalf lady was saying in the video I did, where the lady from Wired, the neo life people, where she's saying how they always thought it would take this big thing. Oh, it just actually took a pandemic, to bring on what they wanted. Yeah, they surprise.
Yeah.
Just to say on this thing, I see you
Yep.
brought it up there. So this is just a concept sort of thing. This is the Biodesign Challenge. There's so many of these, just like the X Prize. They offer this reward of whether it's just I won or there's money or whatever to bring the young people along pushing. And I don't know, I don't know if he started at the beginning.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, human modification. That's what these people, it's modulus. And this is just one idea. And it's this young lady pushing it along that
Oh my God.
they want to make skin for some people are suffering more from violence from the police. So what if we made like smarter skin that could handle that sort of beating? Yeah, and just so many crazy things.
I mean, the symbolism of the woman there with the plant or the rose or whatever growing out of her body, it's just so bizarre.
Yeah.
And of course, the children, we have they always show the children. They care so much about the children.
Yeah. There's other videos that go with this Biodesign Challenge that aren't as crazy, but these people were nuts. But it's just it's a concept. They're not saying, but what they started out with, they say in 2020, they began with the transgender, the making sure that you were living in the right, or something like that. And then they move forward. But you were saying earlier about the LGBT.
Look what's going on here. Is this supposed to be a coronavirus thing?
It could be.
With a feminist sort of in the plants?
Yeah.
And it fits. Yeah, I don't put the sound on because I got my headphones on and I have to like rewire everything. So unfortunately, we're not going to hear the sound in this. But equalize. You see that equalize here, and they got people like looking like they're in a state of meditation.
Yeah, and maybe not just self-induced, maybe a gizmo.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of those out there to help people go into a better state of mind.
They're playing checkers?
Yeah.
I guess that's checkers. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But that's not exactly the most intellectual game on the planet. But that's probably the type. They don't want you playing chess. They want you in a complete, controlled, customize. And then they show it. Again, so much of what we see, like so much. And like I have all the sympathy. I mean, it's sympathy, right? Like I don't believe in embracing weakness. And I think like a guy like this who's got a missing leg and he's swimming in a pool. That's great. Like that's what you should be doing, right? Because you're not making excuses. You're going out and you're taking control. But they orchestrate all this to make it look like we care about those that are the most vulnerable. We want to keep we care so much about the children. We want to do this. We want to do that. Right. So customize what? Your DNA. Look at that.
Yeah. They want to augment yourself is what they're talking
about. And the DNA is, it's
taken over there.
It's like it's molten or something, right? Like look at the, and they're reconstructing it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that everybody should be able to augment themselves to be their best self. Yeah, here's where they're talking about how they started out and then where they're going.
Wow.
To 2100. Yeah. It just one example of one contest. So there's just so many different things, and there's all these biotech happenings going on in Africa, all across the continent, and just pushing it forward for when it's ready for everything to go. And the medical side of things help to develop for the food side of things, which then in turn helps to make the
look at this here. wellness transcendence.
Yeah.
They're using the transcendence sort of
Oh, yeah.
theme in
They
there.
make furry people in this, Jeff. They do.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's like cat ears.
Oh no. Yeah, they're showing the embryo. Oh man.
Yeah.
Biomimicry, synthetic biology. And look at this. What the hell?
Yeah.
How do you find this?
I subscribe to weird things. When I find a channel that offers channels that are talking about stuff,
But
yeah.
modulus, modulate,
Yeah,
building your uniqueness. And again, so the LGBT plus WXYZ, you know how they keep adding letters to it, right? Because you can't even see LGBT anymore. You have to say LGBTQIA now plus or something like that. Like that's the full thing now. And then in a year or two, it'll be several more letters that they'll throw in there.
Yeah.
But that fits all into this, folks, when you think about it, because if you can program people into this notion, first of all, you depress people, but you don't make it think that it's the media or the social media or the video games or the movies or all that stuff that's and the foods that are actually affecting you. You make it think like it's normal people or white people or something like that, right?
Yeah.
That's why you don't feel well. But you're super special. In fact, you're an X-Man, or you're you're a special, unique human being. So programming people, getting them to a really early age to say, oh, gender bias, and it's so outdated and silly, and you should be anything you want at any time you want, sort of thing. And so building your uniqueness, right? Which is all setting the table for transhumanism, folks, when you think about it. Because if people, like, if you can get people, I've talked a lot about this, dealing with, like, one of the reasons why, say, National Queerographic will do shows on tattoo parlors and stuff like that, which, be like, why would they do that? Or body piercing, right? These are things that they promote massively amongst the youth. And I'm not against these things per se, because I think they're just normal sort of things that humans do throughout civilization, sort of thing. But they are being pushed. And why are they being pushed? Well, like the LGBTQXYZ, it's body enhancements that they want you to buy into, and that you can change your identity and you can constantly evolve.
Well, and they don't even have to. I know we've talked about this before. They can get everybody on board for it in the real world, and then once you're sucked into the digital world and living in this augmented reality, you don't have to physically have furry ears. They can just have your digital persona have that, and that's how you're going to be comfortable. That's how you're going to feel like you're going to want to be in that world all the time. Yeah.
Have you seen Ready Player One?
No, but I have seen clips.
So yeah, Ready Player One, Steven Spielberger,
Shocker.
is a world which I'm gonna take a guess. It's about 2045, and it's in Columbus, Ohio. And in the future, of course, global warming, desertification, overpopulation. So like they show you the real world, and the real world is people living in squalor in shanty towns with these, say, mobile homes that are stacked on top of each other like endless Jengas, right? Going up, 100 stories high or whatever sort of thing. And it's very miserable. But there is the oasis, which is a virtual reality in which you can you put on a bodysuit and you go into this world and you can escape and you could live your real sort of identity. And this is where everybody wants to be all the time, sort of thing. Which is, and then, people can be their avatars. They can be, as you said, with the augmented reality too, talked about the augmented reality, both Microsoft and Google are spending billions of dollars, and it's all hush hush behind the scene, but they've been developing augmented reality, these programs massively. And in the near future, it's going to be as simple as putting on a pair of sunglasses, or maybe it's already going to be the brain chip or whatever, where you're going to be able to...
There's a lot of talk that it's about to be glasses.
Yeah, that you can see the world the way you want to see it.
Yeah. So
say you wanted to live in the, the Wizard of Oz, in the land of Oz, or you wanted to see everything like the Mushroom Kingdom sort of thing, or you preferred to live in the Matrix.
It's like they took over another thing, because in They Live, you put on the glasses
Yeah.
to see the reality.
Yeah, They Live, and I'm glad you've seen that one, because
I have.
yeah, that one's so important. But in They Live, you put on the glasses to see how all of humanity is being manipulated and controlled. And then the flip side now, which you could make They Live now, and it'd be the opposite, where it's like you put on the glasses to live in this controlled realm where, you know, reality is completely altered, and, you know, you could live life according to your own sort of rule, or your own rules, or maybe not your own rules, but your own sort of view, and you can see the world that you want to see, sort of thing, which is really disturbing. It's very, very disturbing. I mean, this is and again, it's just one element, right, that that is coming forward. I'm going to play more through this, but yeah, the DNA sort of coloring with the purple. Here they're showing the red blood cells, which I guess, you know, with a lot of the nanotech is going to be going through our bloodstream.
Yeah, the nanobots in your blood, which are not
Yeah.
little robot machines.
No.
They're little biological entities that can do
Yeah.
lots of things. But yeah.
Yeah, that's you know, that's, and then what are they doing here? It is, oh boy, oh wonderful.
Yeah, here's some of that special skin that they're talking. This is
Oh
like
my.
performance skin. That, again, it's a concept, but for athletes, that they'll be able to enhance you.
Yeah, you notice too with the basketball, the NBA, they just
Here comes
allowed.
Sorry.
Yeah, they just allowed players to put their slogans or their social, or their what do you call it, SJW messages on their jerseys. So it's another example of this express. Oh my gosh, yeah, this
You're gonna
expression.
sense things better with those whiskers.
Whoa,
Yeah.
whoa,
Yeah.
yeah, and we know, because it's like, okay, I'll just show you this here. So we'll bring up Google or whatever, and we'll put cat woman, or no, that's the wrong. I'll just put trans species here, just to show you that this has actually been going for quite some time. I've done videos on it. Like this is the woman I was thinking of. This idiotic freaking actor.
I'm a
Here.
cat trapped.
Yeah, I'm a cat trapped. And she like drinks from a bowl, you know, milk and stuff, and she purrs and she sits by the window. And then you had this idiotic actor here too, who's an elf, right? And these are going years back, folks, some of these. And then you have the more elaborate ones where people actually get the plastic surgery.
Yeah, I'm picturing a guy that his face is like super catty. Oh, it's so strange.
Yeah, like this identify as a cat.
Boxes.
Right? But this is actually, like, I covered this stuff years back. Yeah, this is from years ago, actually. You know, trans species woman spends 40,000 pounds to turn herself into a dragon.
Where's her nose?
That's it. They've surgically removed the nose.
Oh my word!
So that the person can look more like a dragon. So you see, it's a trans species woman, right? So when we say with the LGBT, right, and all that crap, this is why they're doing this. Like there's multiple sort of objectives that are accomplished. I mean, a lot of it's just chaos that they like to create, but really they're thinking long term, and the long term is we're going to have subspecies and all different sort of types of human beings that, and of course humans that are going to be part animal and stuff like that. Like you know, they're going to splice species. They've been doing this for a long time. Obviously, China and many other countries, and of course, I imagine a lot of these big tech corporations, these you know, biomedical sort of stuff that you cover behind the scenes. They'll never show you this, but what they might be doing, you know, on their, you know, it's like people used to speculate about Google because they make these barges, right? Yeah. I don't know if you remember that, right? Like, what could they be doing on those barges? Well, if they're in international waters, sort of thing, right? They don't fall under any sort of jurisdiction. So these are potential places where they can do all these types of experiments on human beings, or creating, you know. And then what is a human being? Like, if it's a clone, you know, technically, if you were to ask what would a clone be, would a clone be a human being? Would it have human rights? Well, pretty soon, if not already, yes. And sooner or later, they're going to start announcing clones amongst us. Like it's going to happen, because with the another thing too that this all feeds into is the whatchamacallit, their CRISPR gene editing.
Yeah.
So that the elites are the first ones to have access to this gene editing sort of tech that they're using on babies. Like this is already a fait accompli. I mean, it's just, again, it's like the Moore's law. It's just getting more and more advanced as each day passes by. But with the CRISPR gene editing, you can go in and you can splice and you can edit people's genes, and you can add whatever you want to add and subtract what you want to subtract. So if you want to have somebody that's abnormally tall, or athletically inclined or musically inclined, or with the most advanced sort of brain or whatever, right? Like this is already, they can already do this, and it's quickly becoming something that'll be normalized. Like I think in many ways they want to completely control. Well, obviously they want to control human reproduction. I mean, I don't think I have to explain. I hope I don't have to explain that to people, because that's where it's all moving. That's why they're eliminating mothers and fathers and families, right? The family nucleus is being wiped out right before your eyes, especially amongst the youth.
Yeah.
And so they are moving us towards, and we talked about artificial wombs and, like how the future of humans, and they show stuff like in Blade Runner, the new Blade Runner film, where they have the replicants that are grown in these artificial wombs, and they flop to the floor, and they're full grown human beings, like they're full grown adults sort of thing. That in the, sorry?
I haven't seen the movie, but I know that there's a lot of talk of that they have to democratize all of this technology, because you can't just leave it for the rich people. So they have to get everybody wants to.
Yeah, that's the way that they sell it. It's like,
Yeah.
it's like the vaccines. It's like, we got to make sure that the white people,
Yeah.
we're going to give it to Africa first. So, like Bill and Melinda Gates are saying, Africa is going to get aren't you guys lucky? But yeah, I mean, this type of stuff has been going on, folks. And this is why the LGBT thing, in my opinion, is being pushed as massively as it is. Look at this. They got the cat there, and then they're showing the woman, right? So, like, just there, how insidious is this, right? Because, like, I guess they're making the assumption. I can't hear the audio sort of thing, but the assumption here that the woman just identifies so much with her cat, and her cat is so peaceful sitting here on the radiator, right? And she's like, if only I could be more cat-like. If only I could be more like my cat, right? And then here, looking at the enhancements. Well, I can get stripes on my arms. I can get whiskers. I can get cat ears.
Yep.
Wow. And this is Keio, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, Keio University?
Yeah, they're just one of the participants in this. There's so many. There's, I think, 4 or 5 days of this competition. And since they couldn't do it in person, it was just each of the groups made their own video. And each day is just hours and hours and hours of these videos.
So, yeah, it shows you. I mean, you're getting glimpses here, folks, of what really the bigger picture is, what they're moving towards, where they're moving humanity. Yeah. And yeah, anybody that would get trans species would be mentally ill. There's no question in my mind. If you want to be like part octopus or part cat or something, you're mentally ill. But so many people will be told that that's their true self, and that they're actually liberating themselves and they're becoming themselves. And so that's why when we talk, like, for instance, with the monarch programming, like, why do they use the butterfly? Right? Do you know why?
No.
Because the butterfly is a transformation, metamorphosis.
Yeah.
So, like, you start as a caterpillar, right? Or you start as larvae, and then you evolve into a caterpillar, and then you go through the metamorphosis, right, in the cocoon, and you come out and you're the butterfly. So the themes, and they've been showing you this theme. I mean, one movie that springs to mind is Silence of the Lambs, right, where they had the character that wanted to change into a woman. So he's the mass murderer sort of thing. But this whole science is real, because you see the sign here, unite behind the science, right? If you can get people to embrace science and as a religion, right, which is one of the big pushes that they're doing. Like, they are eliminating, I wouldn't say so much monotheism as they're incorporating it, right? Because they want you to worship nature, but they also want you to worship science.
Definitely.
And so unite behind the science. That's why all these things are tied together. When we show you this, and I'll show it to you here, I'll just put science is real, right? Which is, it's a misnomer anyways, because what does that mean? Science is real. Okay. Science is real. And then you have to define what science is, right? Because, I mean, the way that they just make you buy into it is that, oh, everything that is associated with science is great and real, and therefore I will embrace and trust fully in science. So you notice how science is real is at the top of the rainbow.
I've been seeing a modified version of this popping up in yards in my area.
Really?
Yeah, just
and
yesterday.
What was it saying?
I thought I saw it, one of the other, maybe it's the in this house. No,
what they've got here.
They also had water is, I'm trying to scroll. That
in Montreal, they're using the exact same symbol here, which is the rainbow, all over, everywhere. Like, you can walk around my neighborhood and you'll see people with these signs with the rainbow, "Ça va bien aller," which means it's going to be okay. Oh, and that's all with, well, I mean, it's more than just the coronavirus, but that's what it's for. It's to stop, or it's to make you believe that don't worry about everything that they're doing. Here is the Montreal Gazette, which is Post Media, Paul Godfrey, Post Media Empire up here, New World Order. And while you were sleeping, I'm old enough to remember "Ça va bien aller" here. And they've got, this is what people put up in the windows everywhere. So you see this everywhere, all around. And what I showed recently was, before the whole thing went down, it's actually the Trudeau airport, which is very ironic, of course, and not accidental. Airport here, which is named after not Justine Trudeau, but his stepfather there, Pierre Elliott Trudeau, who was the 2-time or 3-time prime minister here. Montreal, or I would just put rainbow here just to show you. So it's going to be okay. Montreal Airport joins the rainbow campaign amid coronavirus pandemic.
You guys didn't have enough rainbows up there. So.
Yeah, there you go. So you see, when we had the largest rainbow in the world, which is the gay village sort of thing, which they ironically took down this year, and they're going to put a permanent installation there now. And they have all the boy love and love is love and stuff like that. Like, it's really insane. Like, the Montreal gay village actually pushes pedophilia and stuff like that. And we've shown this. But yeah, the airport put this in, which is a permanent change, folks. That's not they're never going to put that back here. And that's why I'm showing this, because the rainbow, I mean, people would say Noahide, and they'd say a lot of different things dealing with the rainbow, right? The Kabbalah, I mean, you could say a lot of different things, but the rainbow is one of their prominent symbols. So the fact that science is real is often, more often than not, looking at Google here, depicted at the top of the rainbow. Just above Black Lives Matter, no human is illegal, love is love, women rights are human rights, and kindness is everything. This is a full-on hive mind programming that they're getting you to embrace these things. This is, I mean, like, look around you. I'll show you again here, just to show you how it works. Montreal, Black Lives Matter. Check this out. Black Lives Matter painted on Montreal's St. Catherine Street East, just like yesterday. They put this up. So you see how all of what they're trying to manifest, and they've been showing you for so many years, is actually manifesting right before your eyes. But of course, it's never what it appears to be, So unite behind the science is more of the hive mind programming to get you to embrace what they have coming, the singularity, the transhumanism, right? The depopulation, everything that they're doing, the trans species.
And it makes them ready, people ready for the new way of eating and everything.
Yes.
Science would
Trust, to eat plant-based foods, right? Trust science.
Yeah.
I want to save. And what I say about what I was saying before about animals, like for instance, Google has been doing this not just to me, but to everybody out there. And I freaking love animals. Like everybody knows that, right? But, you know, like, I mean, I think most people love animals or, you know, I mean, unless you're a psycho or something, right? You're going to love animals. But YouTube has been for the past decade or so pushing animal, nature videos all the time to people. And you don't even realize, but it's all part of what they're trying to accomplish, which is to get you to stop eating animals, like one of the major things, right? And embrace, of course, transhumanism, and embrace depopulation, embrace Agenda 2030, moving everybody into mega cities, living in pods, because you can't live off land because that's selfish and, you know, it takes carbon and stuff like that. So so much of what's been going on is all part of this programming that has it's been around for decades. Obviously it's been around for a very long time, but I think a lot of people now are hopefully waking up to it. I don't know what this this scientist woman here, I guess she's a scientist, is saying.
She's talking about how this is a concept, but we want to make it a future sort of thing, make it a reality. But I have a Canadian food thing.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Let's take a look at that then. Here,
and I had sent you some other links there. There's the iGEM, the competition, where they've got the youth of the world working together to redesign biology in every which way. It's one of the big. There's the iGEM, and then that YouTube video. That's that guy. Well, this is the Canada thing, but the other YouTube thing is that Josiah Zahner. We talked about him once before. He's still at it, teaching all of his like how to modify human cells right now, like DIY DNA, CRISPR, or not CRISPR, COVID vaccines sort of things. But
iGEM, okay.
Sorry, we can talk about Canada in the food thing.
Hang on here. Okay. I'm just gonna open these links because I got some message with the oh yeah, and it's interesting because the is this like Rick and Morty or something?
I don't know that.
Yeah, that's what it looks like because so Rick and Morty, The Big Bang. I've never seen these shows, not even once. But I recognize them because they're memes and they're all over the internet. And, you know, often the hive mind programming of the masses through social media, they use these memes incessantly. But Big Bang Theory and Rick and Morty, these science shows that are from the New World Order, and they get you, hook you in sort of thing, but they're showing you a lot of what's to come sort of thing, what they have planned. So they use these cartoons and characters to get you to embrace into their objectives here. And I'm going to see the igem.org here and see if I can open that up here, because I tried to open igem.org here. Let's see if we can bring that up, igem. So this is what you, secure connection failed.
I can see it over here. But that's okay. It's just more competition.
You could send me a screenshot or something if you want, and I'll try to show it to folks. But yeah, that's bizarre. It won't let me open the page. And then you had another one there.
Yeah, the Canada one, where your largest pension fund is investing in. Do you remember the...
Is this world does not exist.com? Is that the one?
Oh, no, that's another one. No, and that's this word does not exist. Sorry.
Which one is the Canada one?
The last one.
Okay, I think I've got that one open. Yeah, hang on a second here. Yeah. Canada's largest, this is it? Canada's largest pension fund.
Do you remember the Perfect Day foods? That's actually what got me into all of looking at all this stuff, was the Perfect Day.
Have you ever seen Bill Nye's ice cream video?
Yeah.
Anybody that's listening to this, if you haven't seen Bill Nye's ice cream video, you might want to watch that. Your jaw will hit the floor. But Canada's largest pension fund makes alt dairy bet and Perfect Day's 300 million Series C.
And not that it's surprising to see a pension fund investing in this crazy, freaky future, because the governments and the pension funds, we already saw that with the comprehensive annual financial reports. Clint Richardson talked
Right.
about that a lot, with how they're all invested in, they own, the collective owns all of these companies that are building this nightmare world, whether it's the technologies or the pharmaceuticals or the banks or all these little tinker toy people. But they're talking in here about how they're poised to capture the structural shifts in industrial practices, because there's people want those environmentally conscious options, and that the doing the production like this, the milk production like this, it's going to take less land. Everything can be done easier in the bioreactors. I lost a page here.
And so much of it is fooling our senses, right? Like how they develop these things. Like they it's like when it comes to like plant-based foods, right? That they're trying to get us, it's all a trick of the tongue, basically.
Yeah, they're talking about how, in quotes, it says it actually tastes real. Yeah, they know all about the organoleptics. That's your smell and taste and everything. That's
Perfect Day.
Yeah.
I wonder, like, okay, I'm going to click on their thing and open up in a new one. I'm just wondering what their symbolism is here. Perfect Day. They've got kind of the, it's like a teardrop sort of thing here with the black here. Perfect Day.
Taste the magic.
Yeah, it's a perfect day to change the world and taste the magic. And look at this.
And they already released their ice cream.
With the V, of course, they're showing that. Taste the magic. And so this is what's going to happen. Again, like now they're pushing the black-owned businesses and the black-owned startups, but you could see how they're going to start pushing, or they already have in many ways. Like it's like going to your grocer, and like whether you go to a clothing store or a shoe store or you go to a convenience store, right? Most people don't know this, all right? But you should know this. Like product placement is everything, right? So it's like when you walk into a convenience store, usually what is it that you first see as you come in, right? Usually you're going to see the biggest corporations' products. So, I mean, there's a bit of like, well, we're going to put the candy bars by the cash and all that sort of thing, right? But typically the way it works is that the big corporations pay to have their products first and foremost. It's even like the beer fridges. Like people don't even realize this. Like you in Montreal, for instance, you walk into a beer fridge. There's a reason why the first beers that you're going to see are like Miller and Coors and stuff like that, and Labatt and whatnot, right? Because they pay to have that space, sort of thing. So what you're going to see, and you're already seen it, I've seen it in my own grocers, is that these plant-based fake meats and fake dairy and all this are getting front row as you're walking in. So it's like going in the meat section or going into the ice cream section. You're going to start seeing these things first and foremost, put in front of your traditional sort of thing. And that's just how it works. When you want to get people to buy something, you have to put it in front of them. They have to see it first and foremost. And then there's a lot of brand, like the whole branding that comes with marketing. And, you know, like what we show with all the plant-based foods, how they often put like a green leaf type symbolism.
The right words. They use the right words to fit into the
sustainable
product. I'm still battling with my co-op. It is unbelievable how right now, all I'm asking right now is for them to inform the shoppers and the members of the co-op and the national co-op group. I just want them to tell them that this is possible, or that this is happening, that it's all through their store, and they won't. They say that they don't need my brand of education, in quotes. They said, that people, why anybody should be able to look and see. And I'm not even saying I want to go in and give the education. I don't want to wear a mask, and my paper bag I wear on my head would get really hot after a while.
Do you actually do that?
I do. I've had all kinds. Oh yeah, the back of it says, "I just want to pick out my own groceries, thank you." And then on the front, I've changed up I use a piece of paper and I've changed it up over and over. Right now, it says, "Divide and conquer." That's how tyrants stay in power.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
You see, yeah, I've got a thing. I put NWO on it, but and it's like a bandana. But I want to like I'm actually gonna buy like a plague mask.
Yeah, I saw that picture.
I just want to really, cement it, to people. And then again, too, if the whole thing is though they want to just destroy anonymity. So like cash, for instance, being completely frowned upon. Of course, we know this, right? Within a year or two, they're eliminating cash right now, folks. In fact, the United States is taking coins out of circulation. I think people know this, right?
It's like, come on, we've had that for how long? There's been germs going around for how long?
It's
just so crazy.
It's not at all to deal with the germs. It's all about just we want to be able to control everything. I mean, they want to and the amount of money that these creatures have made off this whole scamdemic since it all started is unprecedented. Like the Jeffrey Bezos and Bill Gates and all the richest people in the world have doubled or tripled their earnings, sort of thing, or their wealth through this whole thing. So yeah, this is just another example of how it's all going according to plan.
There's a channel. I don't know if you've showed it. I did see that Max Egan had shared the United Spot that they have. They've made these videos. I've only watched a couple, but one of them that they did, the recent one on the cashless society, made so many great points. It's like this is the end of grandparents sending a Easter card with $5 in it or whatever to children, and this is the end of like lemonade stands and everything. But everything has to be on the tech. Everything has to go through the tech. How much of that it really eliminates. They did a great job. The United Spot. I don't know anything else.
Yeah. And again, like, what you say whatever you want about the fiat currency, right? I understand, right? But the thing is that coins and currency give you freedom as long as it's not fully traceable, which is like Canada has gone through extremes to make the most traceable money. We have the rainbow money here. So our money is like the most advanced money. I mean, I'm talking like cash money, right? It's the most advanced and traceable money in the world. And so they've developed that. But like if you just step back a little bit, right, and you think like say 1980s where cash ruled or something like that, right? Like Reaganomics or whatever. Cash is freedom in many ways. Even though, yes, at the root, it's the fiat currency and the Federal Reserve and all that. But money itself, I mean, this is why they counterfeiting is like one of the most heinous crimes, according to the FBI or whatever, right? Like the counterfeiters, like throughout the 20th century, were some of the most wanted people because of the ability to manipulate that system is huge, right?
They don't like competition.
Yeah, they don't like. That's exactly it, right? They don't like competition. You got to circulate our fake bills, but and then a lot of the characters, and I know in the alternative media, because in the alternative media, like for instance, Bill Still had a huge sort of influence, and he did a great series called The Money Masters. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but. James Corbett was massively influenced by it, and many others. And so like the root of the whole system of much of what is wrong with society back then, I'm talking the earlier days, the 2010, 2012 sort of thing on YouTube, was the fiat currency. And so like a lot of the solutions that were being presented by the alternative media was Bitcoin and virtual currency and digital currency and stuff like that, right? And now this is what the Federal Reserve, this is what the Bank of England, this is what the Bank of Canada, this is what the NWO wants more than anything, which is really to eliminate cash. So the Bitcoin, although, and I always say this, like right? It's there, and it's not a bad thing for you to invest. It's good to diversify, and I'm definitely no economics dude, so it's not my forte at all. But I say be careful what you wish for, because they have wanted this for a very long time, and this is where they're pushing us.
Yep.
So when we think of freedom, in my sort of view, freedom is pretty simple. Freedom is no government. Like seriously, like freedom is like being in the woods, or walking in, climbing a mountain, or swimming in a lake, or growing your own food, on your property. Doing what you want to do, is freedom. And this is what the opposite of what's happening is that. So like cash gives you that freedom. So if you think about cash right now, if you're trying to use cash, a lot of places already are not accepting cash,
Yeah,
first
my
and
co-op
foremost.
has a sign up saying, please don't. But so I
Yeah.
do. I always used to use my credit card too, but now I'm like, nope, paying with cash.
Yeah. Honestly, folks, there's never been a better time to embrace physical cash than now. Not that I'm saying that, and it's just that, like, and throughout history too. And this is one of the things that Bill Still's document showed, or his work showed, is that it's all what people believe it's worth. It's not really what they tell you, whatever, right? It's like if you believe in your money has value, then it does, sort of thing, right? Or if enough people believe it. So that, like, they used to do tally sticks and stuff like that, right? Which, it might seem trivial today, but it actually was a very functional sort of system that they had back in the day, which was a whole sort of scheme by the monarchies to remove the bankers from controlling the system. I mean, so much of the history of cash has been about the banksters. I mean, it's the banksters have always been trying to control everything, and they've always been trying to manipulate the markets and manipulate governments and that's why, like, the Glass-Steagall Act and things like that were taken out in the Clinton administration. Because the banks had fully taken control of the White House. Andrew Jackson, of course, now they want to rip down his statues, and he was one of the only presidents, or one of I mean, he is like the representative of like the anti-bankster sort of president, that fought tooth and nail to stop the banks from taking over the currency and controlling humanity, sort of thing. And now we're here where they're trying to eliminate cash completely, and that cash does give you that freedom, because if you think about, like, right now, going around making purchases, look at the contact tracing, look at your credit card, for instance, right? You're using a credit card, they're able to trace everywhere you go, period,
Oh,
just
yeah.
through that alone. But if you're using cash, and that cash can't be traced, then you can still be anonymous. And then if you put the mask on top of it, right? And like you're wearing a paper bag or something like that, nobody, even the facial recognition, wouldn't be able to,
Yeah,
you
they
know.
catch me as soon as I come out the door. They catch me on the
Yeah,
phone. They're not
that's
do
it.
it until I have
There it
to.
is. It's Camille. Oh, I knew
Yeah.
it.
Oh, I know. No, the first time I saw one of my favorite cashiers, he's like, I know who that is.
Yeah. That's hilarious. You got your
Yeah.
reputation there, but yeah, that again. So like, cash is just a form of freedom, because and I know Aaron Russo, one of his most famous interviews that he did way back with Alex Jones, talking about how the Rockefellers had devised this massive plan to eliminate cash and be able to trace be able to tax every transaction.
I wonder how they have you ever heard in Ithaca, New York, they have the Ithaca hours? I wonder how is it they've been able to do that for so long and haven't been attacked. Like,
What is the Ithaca hours?
I've never been there. I've only looked at it some, but that they trade work sort of thing, and they have little.
Like a barter system.
Yeah, throughout the whole town. But
that's super cool,
and it's been long running. So.
Yeah, and that's again, like we talk about taking steps back to really step forward, which is bartering in your own community, trading eggs for blueberries or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, just basic sort of, what is it worth to you, and and that is definitely, like, because none of the solutions, especially when it comes to sustainable development, none of them involve people with their own farms. Like, that's not even part of, I mean, there's only one solution. Like, that's the crazy thing, right? It's like they only give you one option. There's the Tyson Cargyle massive meat plants with the chickens and the pigs living in squalor and thousands stuck together and living miserable lives, or there's our plant-based, right? And it's like, no, actually there is many other solutions. There's people having their own, small little farms, producing their own eggs, producing their own milk, making their own cheese, doing all these different things. That's never ever part of the solution, because they don't want freedom.
And I'm trying to find it here, but apparently I don't have the link sitting here, but it's on the same, the Egg Funder news that the Canada article is, that they're talking about should regenerative agriculture, because that's the thing now, people building back up the soil and the soil life and everything, that should it embrace gene editing, and that people are
Oh yeah, because they want to get into the soil as well, right?
Yeah, they've got their new the new life, the microbial consortia, that they don't live together normally, but they can brew them up and they make great.
Wow,
and that's certified organic. That one company that I covered back in the beginning of all of this, but. Yeah, they say that the young people, the Gen Zs, they're more willing to try these foods with gene editing technologies, according to a study they did last year. But the older people, they're not so into it. But they don't, like they say, that the people don't like the GMO stuff, and so this isn't GMO. This is
that's it. That's it.
Label it
It's all again and again and again. Manipulation, right?
Yeah, and they crack the people. They mock people that want the organic, which it's such a destroyed term anymore. Anyway, but sorry, I didn't find the link, but so it's not on there. But that they make fun of those people. They're like, oh, you're just sitting in your air conditioning and you don't know anything about farming. It's hard, and we need these technologies. But
yeah, we had this video here with the DIY Rona DNA vaccine.
That's Josiah Zahner. The guy in the bottom there, and he is the owner of the Odin. They sell all of the tools and the cells and whatnot needed to become a biotech enthusiast in your garage. The kind of people that you definitely want, like anybody. They've democratized the power. It's anyone. Anybody can build.
He's got Carpin all of them on his shirt. I just look at the things he's got in his ears there, and I instantly have a strong distaste towards this character. But
yeah, I'm that little thumbs down there.
Yeah.
I subscribe to him, so I try to, when I see
I
try to hit
we've got one that can see.
Seriously. I don't know what they're talking about, but right at the beginning of it, like, I don't know the significance. I didn't look any further, but the guy that isn't there, where it's just showing like an open space, he's talking about something like, get a mouse and do this and da da da, and he goes, oh, we're on live. I was just joking.
Oh yeah.
I was sorry on his shirt.
What? Yeah. Oh wow. That's great. And that, I feel like that too a lot of times. I'm like, I'm the only one thumbing this down.
Yeah. I don't know.
I'm happy when I go to a TEDx video and I see, like, because I watch so many of their videos and I just want to smash my screen.
Yeah.
I'm just happy to see way more people are waking up to it, but it's still not nearly enough. But we didn't even get to this here. You had sent me this link earlier. From Real Player to Toshiba, tech companies cash in on the facial recognition gold rush.
Yeah, I had heard about this on This Week in Google, a month or so ago when it first came out. So back in June, that it's not just the big, of course, it's not just the big names that would come out when the whole George Floyd thing happened, and they don't want to use the facial recognition for the police because it's racist and everything. But that there's a whole bunch of companies that are advertising that they have this right now, and are they going to stop?
Isn't it funny? Okay, so we know that they brought in the mask, right? And they made the mask mandatory, and then they unleashed the George Floyd thing, right? And created that eruption in the United States, which burned down so much and all that.
Well, Greta wanted us to act like our house was on fire, right? So
yeah, so the fire symbolism they love to use, but you think about it. So you have all these black folks, by and large, you know, I know there's a like maybe 5 or 10% of white people or other peoples that were engaged in the acts of violence and looting and all that, but it was largely black people. Let's just be honest, right? It's just a fact is a fact sort of thing. Now, when you think about it, how perfectly that plays out, because they're like, oh, well, we don't want to, you know, racially profile people. So you have this orchestrated sort of chaos that they unleash where all these people are doing these criminal acts and deconstructing societal rules and you know, the abolishing the police and creating chaos. And yet you have the system that has been implemented with the mask that protects their identity and you know, and then the policing sort of complete, you know, transformation of the police, because like for instance the New York Police Department, their new policies, which some of the police have come forward. I showed one
I
cop.
saw that.
Yeah. And he was like, you know, okay, wait, I got to get in a comfortable position here. Okay, I'm comfortable now. Okay, oh, you okay? Yes, you
Is it
shot a
okay
few
with you?
people,
Yes,
but
all
you
right.
know, are you all right? Are you feeling okay? You know, it's like,
That's
you
gonna
know,
work.
yeah, that's gonna work. I mean, like the reality of how they've done this. Now, again, at the same time, check this. I'm sure you know this because I've covered this. How has the facial recognition technology evolved simultaneously with what has happened? Is that the facial recognition technology has evolved to be able to identify people even wearing masks.
Oh yeah.
So the and what happens is, how are they identifying people? Folks, they could identify you by birthmarks on your arms and stuff like that. Like you may think they're looking at your face, but they might actually be looking at your hands for all you know, or your feet or whatever, right? But the what they're explaining is that it's the space between the eyes here. So whether you're wearing a mask or not, it doesn't really matter, because most of facial recognition is around the eyes itself. And then it could also be the ears, very distinctive sort of features on every single human being, very unique. And so, you know, the only way to really bypass that system at this point in time is to Camille it, put the paper bag on your head, and then
They get me somewhere though.
yeah, then you'd have to get away from that. You'd have to park your car, you know, I don't know, outside of the town if you're driving in, and walk and all that, and then hope that the drones aren't
I was
following
gonna
you.
say, just rewind the drones. They'll
Yeah,
follow.
yeah.
Find me. Yeah, there's no hiding. There's none.
Yeah.
And it's a statement, you know. And I felt so good because I worry about the young people with all of this conditioning that they've had. And I saw at a wonderful little store. I won't say it online, but I saw at this wonderful little store, a woman and her small child came in when I had my bag on my head just to comply, and they and be a statement, and the lady's child, they had no masks on, and he was petting my face while he was reading. He was petting through the bag, so I was like, oh, he's not afraid. So good. But he was reading the bag. So
That's great though. That and again, that's a good way of thwarting and sticking it to them.
oh, people
Is
stare.
yeah, because everyone's going to look,
Yeah.
and if you could make a statement without saying anything, like, because
Yeah.
think about it, normally you'd have to draw attention to yourself and say things. I remember when the first things started kicking off, and I was at the supermarket. This was months back, and they had already implemented not the full masks thing, but they had like the one way, you know, shopping aisles, and
Yeah.
you know, I was getting, you know, not chewed out, but you know, excuse me, sir, you're walking the wrong way. Yeah, the biggest laugh ever. But you know, like I remember just seeing at the early stages how people stress and people were freaking out, and the whole sheeple programming where, you know, people were yelling at people for not complying with the rules and stuff. And you see so much of that going around, and what you see, okay, so the Karen thing is very disturbing, especially if you're a middle-aged, or you know, between say the ages of 30 and 60, a white woman sort of thing, because you're going to automatically, if you do anything right now, and I've talked about the psychology of that, because that's probably the largest demographic. If you were to break up North America right now, probably be white middle-aged women that would be the highest percentage of the population. So our clever controllers target, they say, okay, let's focus on these people. How can we destroy and silence them? Well, we can just use this Karen sort of theme and immediately dismiss anyone who speaks out or challenges the status quo or the rules that we're implementing, right, in society, and then just use them as a meme to get everybody to be complicit with this. So, standing out and speaking out with your face against what's happening is not really working, because they can just dismiss you and they can splice like so much of what is shown. Like, for instance, I don't know if you saw the woman there that was empty. She was pulling all the stuff off the shelves and dumping it all over. And she was, it's because I'm Jewish, right? And she's obviously she's a shill playing a role sort of thing, right? Because it's almost it's silly what she was doing, because it's like she's trying to make a statement, but really she's just making an act for it to go viral, and so everybody laughs and says, here's another Karen sort of thing. But that is not in my opinion right now, maybe the best way is to do what Camille is doing. Say, okay, you're going to make me wear a mask. I'm going to wear something that's going to be so in your face that nobody will be able to not notice. And yet I will still be able to, in fact, I will thwart them, because I'm also taking away their ability to identify me. And if I'm using cash on top of that, while you still can, then I'm taking a step further where I'm just not even identifiable.
I do recommend cutting slits for peripheral vision in there. It's definitely an issue.
Yeah. When you're going around with your cart and you smash into something, I didn't see you. Yeah. But that's hilarious. That is so clever. And as I said, like, that's like what I thought is, Bill Gates and put messages on your mask and whatever. But that's even more clever, because you're really sticking it to it, and you're making a statement while you're doing it. And you could put whatever you want. You could put on your clothing, right? You could take some crappy old shirts or whatever, and just take your Sharpie or whatever and start putting some messages on your shirts, saying this is event 201. This is a pandemic. This whole thing has been plotted out. They want to change humanity. Just whatever you think would be an adequate message to folks out there, and therefore you beat the system in the sense that nobody can really. I mean, look at now. I mentioned this before with the NBA players. So the NBA players, for instance, because of the New World Order, of course, controlling pro sports, are now they're coming back this month, right? I don't know if you know this, Camille, but they're going to be playing game. They're already practicing, sort of thing. They're going to have, and the NHL is also going to be doing this, but they're going to be playing to empty arenas, basically. But
and
they're going to.
Is the computer technology good enough that it's just actually digital them? Like, if there's no one there to see them. Are they really?
Yeah, they're going to do it on television, but they're going to have like whatever theatrics in the stands, right? Maybe plants, or like they did with the orchestra or whatever. They'll maybe put fake fans or whatever. But the thing is that they're going to be the players are encouraged to wear a social justice statement, right? Well, of course, it has to be according to the science is real, love is love, Black Lives Matter type crap, right?
Are they going to wear masks?
Not mask, no. You'd die if you're playing. I know, and I don't blame you for thinking that, because that's how absurd it is. But yeah, you would die if you tried to play basketball with a mask on, because of how physically exhausting it is, right?
They're saying where I am that school sports that they'll be wearing masks.
That's insane. There were kids we showed in China. 2 kids died when they forced them to run with a mask. To do like a 2-kilometer run, and they died. So no, they're not going to wear masks in the pro sports. They're just being tested. And I caught this the other day. I put on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he had Bob Saget of all people on.
Like Full House?
Yeah.
Okay.
And guess what he said right in the beginning? In fact, I want to do a short video on this, and I haven't had a chance to get around to it. But he said, "It's all right, Bob. You've been tested. We tested you as you came in." So, like, Joe Rogan has testing kits. Like, just think about that, folks. Joe Rogan is testing his guests before they come on the set.
Well, and that's putting the notion out there that this testing can happen in minutes. That sounds like what the
Yes.
FDA guy was saying
Yes.
about the tech-enabled traceability of all the food, that they'll know in minutes.
I think the tests are the biggest bullcrap deception in, I want to say human history, but not really, because the whole thing is a deception. But really, the tests themselves are ludicrous, folks. And this
you're
is
trusting the machine 100%.
yeah, you're trusting the machine. Is like, what is that actually detecting, and how do you know, and why would you put your trust in it? And
if it is an AI program that's running the whole scenario as we go, they might be like, okay, this area needs this many more positives in order. Yeah,
exactly. So and again, with the contact tracing, and I've shown, and the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, and the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon have played a huge role in the programming of the masses, because they've been using Kevin Bacon and his wife, I can't remember her name, but Kira Sedgwick or something like that. They're both actors, right? But the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, you just look it up, and it's been popping up everywhere. And why is that telltale? Well, because according to the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, we're all just 6 steps away from anybody on the planet.
Yeah.
So it means, like, you know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody that knows me, for instance.
Cool.
And that's the way the whole thing works. So that's cool, right? And now, whether that's real or not, whatever, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But the thing is that plays into the contact tracing, because the way it works is, well, if you have been contact traced to have been in the whereabouts of somebody that was connected to somebody that had the virus, then everybody that you have been in contact with will be contact traced. And then everybody that they've been in contact with will be contact traced, and so on and so forth. So ultimately, the contact tracing has unlimited reach, meaning that anybody could be contact traced at any time. And they could specifically target people if they're able to locate their whereabouts, which they are. They could say, well, look, Jeff C's trouble. It's time Jeff C gets contact traced. Let's see where he's been lately. Okay, let's just say that we had at such and such a fruit market at such and such a time somebody that had it. And then, right, they're coming to contact trace you. And if you don't comply, and I showed this on Monday, which is insane, New York State, pardon me, people that refuse to comply with contact tracing, guess what was happening to them?
They're fining them.
$2,000 per day.
That's so crazy.
$2,000 per day of non-compliance, folks.
Yeah.
Now think of that. The average person is going to freak and say, "Oh, I'm gonna automatically, instantly, comply, because I can't afford." I mean, especially since so many people have been laid off and are economically destitute because of their scamdemic.
And then what could they do to people if you didn't pay that fine? Gosh, take your house.
Yes. So they have created this. This is why they use this symbolism, and they have programmed you in many ways. They probably devised a lot of this decades ago, and this was going to be the way that they were. We know that it goes back decades. Like, we know that with what Bill Gates and co have plotted with this whole coronavirus, and they've had many run-ups to it with the Ebola and the H1N1 and all this, and they were testing it out. And that's what I was saying. So back in 2014, when I was making international headlines with the work that I was doing and reaching millions of people on a daily basis, sort of thing, with my work on the Ebola, I was saying that this was a test run, or that was a test run for when they really want to implement the full sort of pandemic operation. And they needed to test out and make sure they had all their pieces in place before they could roll forward. And so this is where we are right now. This is their new world order. They are carrying this thing out, and everything, unless, of course, enough people stand up to what's going on, everything will be changed forevermore as we move forward. And just like we said, and you were saying earlier, that the mask thing is not going to go away.
No, not if what they're saying. They say it's the new thing.
And think about the plexiglass that you already see. You think they're going to take those down?
Well, lots of stores that talk about going dark, right? No shoppers in the store.
Yes.
Yeah.
I showed on CNN where there was a reporter. Well, there was an article that they put out a few months or 2 months ago where they said this should be the end of grocery shopping. Yeah. That what we should do, the future of grocery shopping should be like a la Blue Apron, right? Where you, or, I say Blue Apron, which is, that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like we talked about that a few times, but
where
like,
you get just what's for your
this
many carrots.
Here you go. Here's your, and again, that all fits in the Plandopolis and the World Food Council and the United Nations taking control of the distribution.
I hope you don't want seconds.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're gonna get what's your age, what's your height, right? Your body mass. This is what you're entitled to on a daily basis, and it'll all be synthetic, plant-based foods because it can't have any carbon footprint or anything. So they're shifting everything about us right now. Like this is all, and then the singularity comes into play, which is it's like, I mean, it's like the biggest nightmare ever. It's like a full-blown, out of control artificial intelligence that takes over humanity. And in the film Transcendence, which I really think you should see, Camille, because even though it's not a good film or anything, but it shows this playing out. So that the Johnny Depp character, who is basically Elon Musk, and Elon Musk is in the film. He does a cameo in the film, which he's given a standing ovation to the Johnny Depp character.
That's just great.
And the whole thing is that they're developing the ability for people to download their consciousness and their memories to artificial intelligence. And the Johnny Depp character, who's the Elon Musk character or the Ray Kurzweil character of the film, he's the main character, and he gets attacked by some traditional humanists. So the new terrorist groups in this film are people that believe in a traditional human sort of way of life and think that the transhumanist sort of agenda is going to destroy humanity. So they attack him and they poison him with some sort of cancer thing that's going to kill him off in about a month slowly. So he transfers his consciousness into an emulation, into an artificial intelligence program. And then that artificial intelligence program starts to take over the world. And when it takes over the world, what does it do? It's very interesting because you see a lot of what's happening. It takes over a small town and builds this massive underground, like first it builds a huge amount of solar panels in a desert. And then underground, it builds this massive, huge laboratory where it starts experimenting with nanotechnology on humans. And then what happens to the humans is that the humans in this town are incorporated into the hive mind. They are brought in and they are injected with nanotech. And the nanotech gives them superpowers. So it makes them extremely strong, right? It doesn't make them smarter. It just makes them super strong and super capable sort of thing. So they become super soldiers of the transhumanist program that is now Johnny Depp and has taken over the world. And so his former coworkers conspire against him because they think he's out of control and they're going to stop him from destroying the world. Right. But in the end, of course, it turns out, no, this artificial intelligence program that he is actually benign and is obsessed with sustainable development and is saving the world. So they actually sell it to you through the film that AI will be the savior of humanity, not of humanity so much, but of the planet.
Oh, yeah.
Of the planet, because humanity sucks, right? According to they hate humanity. They like themselves and they like their own sort of offspring and their compadres, right? And all that, but they hate all of us and they want to get rid of most of us. And they can't outright come out and start murdering us. So they have to take control and find creative ways of getting rid of us. And so, yeah, that's very interesting. Now, the human emulations, and I don't know if you've looked into this, because this is one of the craziest things that I've looked into over the past year or so, because this is, again, when we mentioned Sophia the talking toaster there, who is has human status or has all the human rights, apply to this toaster that's named Sophia, right? That they made in Saudi Arabia, or they decided for whatever reason to release it there and give it human status, sort of thing. The human emulations that are depicted in this film, which is something that all these scumbags like Ray Kurzweil and co are going to do, Bill Gates and co, which is create emulated versions of themselves within the cyber sphere world, which would be instantly vastly superior intellectually and in terms of like infinite sort of exponential growth, just like the singularity itself. That if you create an emulation of yourself in say on a supercomputer sort of thing, right? That first and foremost you would be given the same status as regular human beings, even though you're just an AI program. And you would have the ability that that artificial intelligence program would have the ability to enhance itself, every second, sort of thing, of every fraction of every second.
Oh yeah, that's with the hive. You're constantly gaining any knowledge that anyone else in the hive has contributed. Just like the Tesla cars, the Teslas, they teach each other as to what the cameras on the other vehicles are picking up.
Yeah, that too, right? So all of these things are actually happening kind of behind the scenes, folks, that are going to have a huge impact, especially if this singularity comes. It'll be like a massive tsunami or a bomb that goes off, and all of a sudden we're in a different world. I don't know if the singularity would come out and announce itself, right? But you'd have to, again, the nightmare scenarios of artificial intelligence all of a sudden becoming conscious and deciding in a microsecond, like with Skynet a la Terminator, decided our fate in a microsecond, right?
Watch for all of the people with the wearables just freezing and all moving in concert together.
Yeah, we showed, okay, did you see that commercial? The cartoon? So I showed a cartoon on Jeff Censored, which is so utterly disturbing. It was Stretch Armstrong and the Stretchables or whatever. It was some.
Oh, I think I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking that Doctor Who, the Cybermen thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I don't know about that, but in the cartoon that I showed, the people, this is from a few years ago, and what happens is people are getting quantum dot tattoos.
Yeah.
And it's exactly like what Bill Gates and co envision, which is, you have this sort of nanotech slash quantum dot sort of thing living on your body that can be, it's connected to a hive or connected to a central sort of computer system that controls the data of everyone and can instantly detect everything about you, sort of thing. So these people are getting branded with these quantum dot tattoos in the cartoon. And then all of a sudden, the evildoer in the show says, okay, execute Order 66 or, thereabouts, sort of thing, where they flip the switch. And all of a sudden, all the people that have the quantum dot tattoos become part of a hive consciousness and do exactly as they're told, sort of thing. Really, really disturbing and foreshadowing in many ways what I believe is right around the corner. And this would be really scary, folks, because if they're able to accomplish this and somehow like legitimately hive mind a huge percentage of the population, they could just use that hive minded, those people under that mind control to wipe out everyone else that refuses.
Yeah, I read there was the book series about years back here. I read that Divergent, I think it is called. Anyway, they had like the people, the soldiery like people. It's been a long time since I read it, but they were not able. They didn't know what they were doing, but they were attacking their own people because they were all taken over by the system, sort of thing. They were killing.
Yeah, it's really it's just
like,
nuts.
No, thank you. But if that's a cartoon, so that's no wonder that so much of the youth is all gung ho. They must forget that whole flip the switch thing. I did send you one more link.
Oh, yeah?
That nano wow. I should probably go shortly here, but
yeah. I was going to ask you.
Yeah, this came out. This is some advertising from Edelman, that company, the propaganda machine company that I covered in a video. and it came up. You'll love the background as she gets going here. You don't
Oh
need
my
her.
gosh, Amber!
Amber, I knew you like
Oh
that
my
part too.
gosh,
Yeah,
that's
so
nuts.
the
Yeah.
listening to it, it's all like cartoony and poppy sounding, but if you play, you'll see the hive in the background. But this seems to be that it's obviously for children. And I looked quickly. I didn't get to read too much into an Irish group that they've been testing out their digital education systems for a few years over there. But in a moment, it'll go.
Wow.
Yeah,
And then you can see the hive with the hexagonal sort of symbolism.
and she gets into how great it is to grow body
wow.
parts.
Yeah. Your cube symbolism.
Yeah.
And they've got it here in their symbol as well. And, you know, the thing about this too, the amber. So I showed this. I don't know if you noticed, but like there was a big amber alert here in Quebec. In fact, just to bring that up quickly, because there's a big story that's developing with that here in Montreal. Actually, it's so there's two convergent amber stories that are out at the same time. This is not accidental at all. Have you heard amber? Did you hear the amber alert?
I've heard you talk about it.
Okay, so have you heard amber? Amber heard.
Oh gosh.
Okay, so what is, look at this, the amber alert for 4-year-olds. You've got another one just from a day ago. But the big amber alert here in Quebec, and I'm looking to see if it comes up here, is the two girls. So it was a guy named Carpentier here. I just remember his name, so I'll put that. Carpentier, search for father girls found dead in Quebec enters 7th day. So this was the big amber alert that came out at the exact same time that Amber Heard and Johnny Depp and all that were going on. And so the amber, of course, Amber Alert, right? Dealing with this guy. Again, it's a deconstruction of family as well, because most of the, so like Amber Alert goes off, say, and it's, again, you know, people you can't talk about brought the whole Amber Alert thing to fruition. And it was all based on some, I think it was a Jewish girl that disappeared, you know, these Brothers Grimm tales that they have. And so they implemented this system in which there would be a statewide or nationwide sort of alert issued to people when a child goes missing. And, you know, like you've seen people that are paying attention to the whole ludicrous, what is the thing I was covering the other day there with the, I'm drawing a blank there, but on Jeff Censored, I was covering the latest whole scamdemic. Hang on a second here. I got to bring it up so I can just here. I'm just going to look myself up here. And the Wayfair. So the Wayfair, that's what I was looking for. So Wayfair is all based on this idea that they're trafficking children, right? Using the Wayfair catalog, and you can order children via the system, you know, by ordering these extremely expensive cabinets that are named after the particular child that has gone missing and all that, right? And this is from QAnon. So this all ties into the Amber thing, because the Amber thing is all based on this. The QAnon put out this thing where 800,000 kids go missing every year in the United States. And so all these people just buy into that and think, oh my gosh, there's almost 1 million kids that go missing every year. Well, 90% of them or 95% of them are just kids that ran away for an hour. One of the parents took off with them, right? Like almost all of them are recovered. They don't tell you that part. They just put this whole notion in order that the state is kidnapping, you know, nearly 1 million kids a year sort of thing for the adrenochrome, right? Like the whole narrative that they play out, and Tom Hanks is all part of it. And it's just really insane. But that all feeds into the Amber, because the Amber Alert system is all dealing with missing children. So if you heard the Amber Alert happening at the exact same time that the Wayfair thing is all unfolding, this is not at all a coincidence, folks. This all fits together. And this one here, dated July the 13th, 2020, Amber Nano Wow, right? And you see, like, this is how the NWO kind of works, that they're able to hive mind and control people via these often catchwords and stuff like that, dealing with things and planting these sort of, we need to all be surveyed all the time, or we need to embrace a hive mind to keep people safer, sort of thing. So I don't know what are you going to say dealing with this video? Like, what's the main sort of thing that they're programming here? Is it the hive mind sort of embracing, or?
Well, the nano world and the biology, you can build anything with biology sort of thing, that it's just the program for the children to get
a program for the children.
Yeah, so that they're ready when the millennials of right now that are driving it all forward, the youth, the young people, they'll be totally on board to accept it, because all of their training, like they want to regrow body parts. They're talking about with the salamander, and if you let it go, there's another.
Well, the salamander, because the salamander, if they lose a limb, they regrow it, right?
Yeah, they say we can't regrow a brain yet, but we're ready.
It's okay, we got this. Oh yeah. Wow. Sorry, what were you gonna say? The part there?
There's another part, if it goes forward a little further, where they're talking about they're the nanobots in your blood, but they show them as little robot-y looking things, but that's biological nanobots.
That's just crazy. Oh my gosh. And look at this. They've got like some battery that looks like it's hooked up to the heart. They're talking
about the pacemakers, like to show that it's already normal.
It's already normal to have these things in your body, so there's nothing wrong with it.
Exactly. We've been doing it for so long.
That's just nuts. I have to watch this, and I'm so glad that you're covering all of this, Camille. You're doing incredible work.
There's more I want to show eventually here.
Yeah. Well, I know you have to go, so I didn't want to hold you on any longer. But is there anything you want to say in closing there to the people that are listening? Obviously, you can tell folks. I mean, like a good thing to do would be to leave a comment and tell folks where they can find you. I put her channel in the description, so folks, please go over and subscribe to her.
I also made a backup channel that's just Stop the Ride. You can
Stop the Ride, okay?
Yeah,
that's great.
And then I have a BitChute channel too.
That's really smart. You know, they just deleted or terminated Dan Dix as well. So Max Egan got taken down. And I mean, it's one I just think, when is me? It's pretty soon, probably. So, we all have to kind of, we're going to have to do what we have to do to try to keep afloat, sort of thing, to get this information out. So it might be pretty soon that we're all over on BitChute or something. Maybe people like you and hopefully Grace can maintain a presence on this platform, through all the censorship. But
and you can also find me at pleasestoptheride.com, and that's where all the sources are.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And often with the videos, especially if I forget to put something in, like with the last one, there's so many more things that are in the source links to explain it all more. Just trying not to make super duper long videos, but
awesome.
Yeah. And please feel free to share any of the stuff. Anybody, take the sources. There's even some transcripts from some things on there. But my experience is that people don't know, and they think they're clean and sustainable and all that's a good thing, but it's a huge attack on all fronts. It's not just food, it's not just medicine, it's a complete takeover of biology with biology, and it's backed by the biggest corporations and governments and people we're not supposed to talk about, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's way deeper. Like, it's easy for us all to be focused on the here and now, which we should be, of course, but we also, and hopefully we did that enough with this show, is to show you that they have huge plans, like, and their plans for humanity is nothing. I mean, it's Pandora's box once it's open. Like when the whole singularity thing, if it happens the way that they want, nothing will be the same ever again. And we're almost already there, because we're just seeing, just everything being changed right before us. Like we just talked about grocery shopping being wiped out, and all the theatrics that we have to go through just for our day-to-day lives, and the elimination of cash, and this elimination of plant, or not plant, but animal-based foods, right? All these things rapidly being rolled out way faster than ever before. We used to marvel at how fast the whole sustainable development thing was being pushed, and in many ways the Agenda 2030 was a way of saying we're ahead of schedule, because the Agenda 21 was kind of, well, it was the 21st century sort of agenda, but they were so ahead of schedule that they made the Agenda 2030 thing, because they figured we can do all this real quick, and there, none of this, so much of this hinges on what's happening right now with the COVID-19, you know, like having,
Oh, it's supercharged with that.
Yeah.
Everything's made faster. And look how fast the plant-based rollout. That was so quick. And I seriously think we're about to see stem cells. Like that's about to be,
yeah,
the
exactly.
food.
All right, so thank you all so much for taking part in the show today. Hopefully you give us a thumbs up, and if you like the show, please do come and support me. My Patreon link's in the description. Go check out Camille's channel, subscribe to her, check out her website, and yeah, try to get the word out. Try to share this if you can on social media. I think it's very important because people need to know about where this is all going. Obviously, Camille and I will be back.
Yes.
You know, we love doing this show, and I think there's so much important information shared. So you guys are awesome. I mean, really, we're so blessed to have so many good people listening to this show. So I hope you guys have a terrific rest of the day and rest of the week. I'll be back, maybe uploading tonight on Jeff Censored, definitely tomorrow, and on Friday, big live show sort of thing. So look forward to seeing you guys all then. Take it easy, folks.